wanted to make this video. This is for Mikayla as well. Now, I think it's important. I don't know. I don't believe that my biological father's still alive. I really don't think he's still alive. He would have to be very old. He would have to be like at least 70 years old. At least 65 to 70 years old, if not older. If he's still alive, and it's very many people don't. Most of us in life don't even make it to 70. But Mikayla, this guy, these house that lived right next door, where it was two houses down, and I'm just thinking to myself, because it's all jaded. There's all this information, and I was thinking, I knew Jamie because she was a real pretty girl, and a lot of the guys that I used to hang around with from the hood, all the Mexican guys, they knew who she was, because she was she was pretty well known among these guys, and I knew that she didn't get along with her mother very well, and I knew she was adopted. She didn't look like, and I don't know if her mother, that lady, was a transgender or not. She could have been. But I think she is. I think she could have been a transgender, but I know that she was adopted because she lived there the entire time. So she saw that little girl and that neighbor. They saw the little girl all the time. That my sister that passed away, they had Down syndrome. But I never saw Jamie come outside. I never saw her. I think I'd seen her one outside maybe once or twice, because there was some disruptive arguments between her and her mother or something like that. But as far as the guy that lived there, I want to say that he protected her. He was kind of like an uncle figure, but who would have known my biological father. And this is kind of nerve-wracking because I just got a phone call just a few minutes ago, because all my phone is being tapped. They know what I'm they know what I'm typing into my phone. So when I look up somebody's name, trying to look them on Facebook or on my high school yearbook website or any of these, they know exactly. And the person that just called me was like, "You're going to a job interview?" Yeah, we're right next door. So they're following everything that I'm doing on my phone. I always believed, I believe that Jamie, from what little I did know about her, I hate to be able to say this, but I want to say I think it could have been a suicide, because I don't know if someone told me or it was like a distant friend, because Edward Rangel and Mark, I used to live next door, like a couple apartments down from Marco's family in my apartment. And she was a pretty girl. I never talked to her. She had a kid. I just let them, live their family. And I talked to her dad a couple of times, Marco, who I used to hang out in the hood. Used to be a really funny guy, very funny. And I do know that Edward Rangel has an identical twin. And obviously his identical twin passed away in the car wreck with Robert Zarate. But a lot of the guys that I knew in the hood that I used to hang out with Robert Zarate, with Edward Rangel, they knew who Jamie was. All of them knew who she was. As a matter of fact, one of them used to come over to my house and went over to her house a couple of times just to say hello to her. And, because they really liked her. But I always felt that it was a suicide, because she did not, to my understanding, she wasn't involved in like hardcore drugs, cocaine. She wasn't involved in any of that. And she went to an all-girls school, Catholic school, like a church school, because I used to see her come home from school in her girls uniform or whatever they have to wear in those types of schools. So I knew she wasn't involved in like hardcore drugs, to my understanding, but she had dabbled in it a little bit. And I believed what I heard about her. She died, and I was told, or I remember reading on a website, that she passed away in her early 20s. She was like, maybe, I don't know if she made it to even, I don't know if she was even 25, or I think I was somewhere in my late 20s or early 30s one day when I was looking at her website, because she was only like a couple years younger than me. She was like a couple grades below me. And I do want to say, like, I found it very, to me, in my opinion, given the girls I used to see her hang around with, there weren't bad girls, but I believe that when I saw her website, it was unusual for me to hear that she had passed away from a drug overdose. And I thought to myself, did she commit suicide? Because, you know, it's weird because like I when I talked to her mother, she was like, Hector, Jamie, or I don't remember even her name, Jamie or Jenny. She passed away of a drug overdose, like, 10 years ago, and I was like 30. I was like 35 years old when I saw. I was somewhere around 25 to 28, 9 years old, 25 to 29 years old when she passed away, and I don't even remember because I remember coming across and he just said that she had passed away. And one of the things that I think is so weird about this is one day whenever I was in Vermont, just about a year, just about last year, it was before last year, when it was a few months before I moved into my apartment in Vermont. I had mentioned her in her video, and I went to the post office, I think it was, to drop something off, like Christmas letters or something like that, and I saw a girl that looked exactly like her, and I almost approached her and say, "Gosh, she looked exactly like my cousin, or like my, she's like a second or third cousin or something," and not blood related, but like through family. And I didn't say anything, and she was a little boy that she had like a son, and he was a little Mexican boy that looked like me. And I didn't say anything. I was just looking. I was like, gosh, you look exactly like Jamie. I mean, I almost wanted to say that was Jamie, but it wasn't. Because I was like, she passed away, didn't she? I never talked to her. I saw her in high school, and I just kind of, I'd say hi, and that was it. But I just knew that in the world that I lived in, I didn't want to bring any of the drugs world around her, because she was a real pretty girl. But I knew she didn't get along with her mother. There was a lot of feud. And I wouldn't, and you know I don't know how it goes in the world of kids that are adopted. I don't know how that goes, but I knew that they didn't, there was parts of them that didn't get along. They didn't get along. And because Robert Zarate used to went to her house a number of times, used to talk to her. Robert Zarate. And I was cool with it because he was like, oh, because I'd known Robert for so long. There's so many more details that I'm not making into this video regarding the relationship between me and Robert Zarate and this girl. But Robert really liked her. He was like really cool. So I knew that she was, on that good list. But it makes me think of my biological father and that entanglement, whatever went on there. Obviously, this is a long time ago, and Mikayla, you probably don't, you obviously don't know who these people are. But Mikayla and Mikayla's mother would have to know all the details. I mean, like I said in my other video, there's nothing more precious in this life for a man to have a daughter and want to protect her. Especially, when she can get pregnant by a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of guys that go after her, bad guys that don't have any interest in really well-being. Every guy that has a daughter wants his princess to be protected and not live a suffering life. And, there's no way that Mikayla, she was involved in her father's life, which is our father, my biological father. Obviously, I was raised by someone else, but I know that Mikayla's mother would have known about that. And if Mikayla's mother, I means a whole bunch of other females would have known. Because girls like to talk about all kinds of nonsense, just like the gay community. You mean, you say anything and they all, like right now, what's going on in the world that I live in, they're just passing out whatever information they want to whoever they want to pass it to about what's going on in my life. They don't even want to hear the story. No matter what it is, they want to persecute me. But biological women are different. They have a love and kindness to them that is far beyond males and transgenders and gays, far beyond any of that, because they're women and like caring and but it makes me think, I'm not trying to trying to say, obviously, Hector, my biological father, was loving, kind to me. That's not, he surrendered me to my father Raymond, and there was a mutual conversation between the two. It was like, take care of him, I'm going to leave him here. And my mom had to do what was most important. But I do remember that I talked about this, I think, in my other video, Mikayla, that that house that I saw, I think it was him. Maybe it wasn't, but I want to say it was him. That I remember my biological father over the phone, and he was like sniffling kind of cries. Like I could hear the desperation in his voice. And one of the last things he told me, and he says, "Don't forget, I'm your dad. I'm your dad." And from what I could tell, he knew he'd given me up, but he wanted to give some recognition because there was emotion. You can't have a biological son and not have emotion toward that child. You just can't. You can't separate that, because that's your blood, that's your child. But I do remember Mikayla, if you wanted, I'm telling you this, he was sniffling sort of like cries, and like I could hear in the desperation, because I want to say he was either at work and it sounded like he was on a lunch break, or he was at work and he called me, and he called a couple of times, but my mother had to do what was important and said, don't call, for whatever reason, and she said that he's fine now, and because he didn't show up, he just called periodically. But he made several attempts to call my mother, and he respected my mother's wishes. He said, okay, but he made several attempts to call, to contact me. So, Mikayla, you're gonna want to know this, and I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, so I saw Mikayla whenever I was at Lawrence Community Shelter. And when I was at the Lawrence Community Shelter, I know what she meant whenever she was coming toward me and all these situations that was going on. I knew exactly what she meant. It's her father. And I talk about this because I don't think Mikayla could have, to my understanding, this is what I think. I don't think my biological father was a part of Mikayla's life in the beginning, or maybe in the short beginning he was, and then went to prison, because I talk about this, that I was at Chris Dotson's house, and this is Chris Dotson, Daniel Box, Rob Zarate. We were all friends. Like, we were hanging out with each other, talking shit toward one another, smoking weed all the time. It was just a constant, like, very few people really know the bond that we all had. But I do remember Chris Dotson, he was telling me, and he was saying, yeah, she said that, because Mikayla had told, and it was like one of the first times Mikayla had smoked weed. And he said that, yeah, that girl was coming. She said that he had a brother named Hector. She said that her dad was now getting out of prison, or just got out of prison, or he was getting out of prison soon, and Mikayla, my sister, was looking for me. And that was the story of it. And she had said, and so if I think it was, the reason I think my biological father went to prison for a short period of time, and without a doubt, they targeted him. the 100%, the police department, everyone that knew, you got to get this guy away from Hector and my mother. We got to make sure we shut the doors on his mother. His mother's stupid. We can do whatever we want to. That's exactly what happened. But I think it's important to talk about because, you know, there's just no way, like, Mikayla would have been very connected to her biological father, and the fact that I saw Mikayla at the governor's office. To me, I'm still so boggled by that. I'm so still boggled by that. I'm like, why did I, like, what, like, that is a huge amount of, like, you just can't walk in there and sit at somebody's governor's desk and say that you work there, let alone walk in there. And she looked scared, kind of. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, when I talked to her, obviously, she probably didn't really work there for some reason. I don't know what was going on. But she looked like, she had a lot of people come after her. Like, you could just tell that she was, like, terrorized. Like, somebody was doing something. There was a group of people, and she kind of didn't know really the circumstances and was sort of searching for someone, trying to get answers for herself about me as well. What happened? What's going on? Because there's people that are coming after me and did bad things, and I don't have anything to do with it, just like they do to me. I don't even know how. None of these people that are persecuting me, I don't know none of these people. But they're coming after me, and they think they know the story. They think they understand. They don't, nothing. They don't care. They just want to find a reason and a vessel to use hatred at, and they just persecute me regardless. They don't care anything. I could be murdered on fucking, shot to death, and it doesn't even matter. He was an enemy of the state. They don't care. Like, these people, there's so many homosexuals and transgenders that they don't, not even a normal conversation. But it makes me think, it's like, I know that the people that are stalking me and the people that are investigating this, which is not the law enforcement, whoever's stalking me and tracking me, everything that I'm doing, they're making sure they bring around all these circumstances that's related to that house, because they wouldn't have done this when I was in Vermont. Why is it that I just bring this girl up slightly and there's a little kid that looks, a little Mexican kid, a little handsome little Mexican kid, looks like me, next to this girl? Because I knew Jamie, I want to say she had 2 kids. She had like a kid or something. But I saw a picture on the internet. I can't find it, and I think I deleted it on my photo albums, or somehow got deleted. But I saw there was a picture of Robert Zarate, and in the picture it said that this is like her 2 kids, and she had, like, I think 2 kids, and one of the kids looked, I mean, it was Robert Zarate's kid. I mean, you couldn't mistake that. And he looked a little bit different, obviously, because it's his son, and but I do know, I always believed, even when I talked to her mother, I believe she committed suicide. I believe she possibly wanted to commit suicide. For a woman to have 2 children and be taking pills, and her particular environment may not have been the best, I just find it very difficult to believe that it was just a total accident overdose and she died. But I want to say I think she graduated high school. Very pretty girl. I mean, she was like pale white, like whiter than white girls. And I know she associated with a lot of friends that I knew. She knew a lot of the crew that I did, and they liked her, yeah. But I don't know if it was somebody that told me, like one of the old crew members said that, yeah, she was kind of depressed, or she talked about suicide. I want to say somebody told me or something that she talked about suicide, or she was suicidal, or she had tried before, or something along those lines. And that's very unusual for a woman, for a female, let alone have kids. So I believed, I don't know, it could have been an accidental overdose, but I know that she passed away. She was like anywhere from 23, anywhere, and she was in her early 20s to mid 20s when she passed away. And I never heard about it till I saw online that she died, but I don't know. It's very you know, it's very questionable to me, in my opinion, because I do remember there were some friends that said that someone said that she was either suicidal or she didn't want to. She had a very deep depression. She had a very deep depression, and it bothers me because like this girl that I talked to, Casey Rickles, who I was talking to over the phone, literally like a month or two before she died, and I'm still feel very traumatized by this. And the few times that I talked to her, I could hear that she was like trapped and trying to escape, and I didn't influence anything. Like she was just looking, she's very smart, but she sounded like she was just trapped in a bad place, and you know, she ends up dying. Like I don't even, and she has a few kids. She was, when I talked to her, she was telling me that she desperately wanted to reunite with her other children that were living with her, with some other relatives, and she wanted to connect with her children, and she couldn't. And she sounded like she was not being permitted to talk to her children. But I do remember someone telling me something that she was suicidal, or she had tried, or she was talking about it. And it was years ago. Like I don't know who it was, or someone had. It was one of the old crew guys, and the Mexican guys, that I remember telling me something about it. And or she was very depressed. But it's just very weird. You won't find, like, it's not a common thing to my knowledge that a girl real pretty like her commits suicide. And I knew a little bit about her life, that she was like went to court a couple of times. I think she was skipping school. She got in trouble a little bit because my mother, I remember telling me, my mother would told me, she goes, es Jamie or Jenny se pongo problemas con el court, sí, and está llegando y something had happened. I don't know what, but it was basically, teenage kind of stuff. You go to court for skipping school or something very minor and nothing serious. But I thought I'd make a video on that. I don't know. It's what I do know, and I'm sure there's so much more I may not ever know. But Mikayla would want to know. You probably want to know because, Mikayla would probably want to know. It's very nerve-wracking right now because I'm getting phone calls, and people are listening to me right now in this very room, and they're recording me, and they have hidden recording devices, and they're listening, and then they want to retaliate. When I get on the bus, they'll send somebody. When I, go to a grocery store, they'll send somebody. So much of the time, also, is like they think I'm paying attention, and I don't understand it. I don't really know exactly, because there's so much they're more in tune into my life than I am in my own, and what they think of my life. But Mikayla, you probably want to know, whoever it was living at that house. I think maybe it wasn't. There's a possibility it wasn't my biological father, but I want to say that it was very, very much that it was. And he came and spoke. He came and spoke to my mother. I want to say that's how my mother met him. But my mother never went over there, because it's so weird, because my mother knew he was studying to become an 18-wheeler truck driver. My mother knew that. And she told me when I was like 9 or 10, but she didn't say it was my biological father. She said, yeah, you know that guy over there? Yeah, the guy that lives with at that house, he's studying to become an 18-wheeler. And, he's going to be making really good money. But I think maybe my mother was expecting him to maybe pay child support or help at some point, and then he wanted no interest. That may have been. I know it sounds kind of rough, but I don't know. There isn't a doubt in my mind. I know people went after him. 1,000%, 1,000 billion. They went after him, Mikayla, to cutthroat him, to went after to throw him on the streets, make him suffer, put him in control, just like they're doing to me, and just like they're probably doing to you at some point. But there's nothing. There's the time that I heard him sort of cry when I was in the car with him. I heard him on the phone. Even if he surrendered me, he said, "Okay, well, I am dropping you off over here with Rain Paloma, and that's your dad. He's gonna take care of you." It doesn't change the fact, you have a daughter, beautiful, like model-looking daughter, Mikayla. There's no way that you would not want to get frustrated to think and be worried that somebody could go after her. There's no way. Even if he's not with obviously he's not with that Mikayla's mother anymore. It's his daughter. That's the biggest prized possession that you're ever going to have in life. To make sure she has a good life and protected, like the father. But I don't know. It's very kind of nerve-wracking because I'm being stalked. You have no idea that it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, being recorded, being watched under camera. Everywhere I live, everywhere I go, whenever they get the chance, people are monitoring me. Like, it's team efforts. But I don't know. I still have to brainstorm probably over several weeks and months or maybe even longer than that, to ever think that maybe there's something else that I can remember the scene. But I want to say I thought I saw him. I'm going to say I thought it was him. There's a chance it wasn't him. Maybe it was someone else. But, hope to find you, Mikayla. Please be careful.